All right, and Hajara Aliyu joins us now. Hey, Hajara, we saw your report there. But before you go any further, just tell us about PVC collection, about the penetration in the state, and what it's like for people collecting their PVCs, if you have any idea of how many have been collected and how many are uncollected.
Okay, at the time I raised an alarm of number of uncollected PVCs in the state, and there are over 280,000 uncollected PVCs at the time. But today, INEC says there are 32,972 uncollected PVCs. It means INEC has recorded 90% collection rate,
wow,
which is actually encouraging.
Not encouraging, that is awesome. If in December they had 280-something thousand PVCs uncollected, and as at now, as at the day it closed, over 90% of those have now been collected,
so
leaving you with only
what did they do differently in Bauchi?
Do you know what they did differently?
They actually worked to distribute PVCs. The reality is that the turnout was low. After the PVC reward against come and collect their PVCs.
Okay, we seem to be having some seizures on your audio, but if you can still hear us, what's the general mood like? You spoke to a couple of people there, but what's the general mood like? Are people looking forward to these elections? Do they have any concerns or fears? What's the general mood like?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Carry on.
Carry on.
I hear you.
Go on.
People are really ready to exercise their franchise. This is they will expand their whoever they choose to vote for. Whether the person who wins or not, this is the person of for.
All right, thank you, Hajara. We seem to be having some difficulties with your audio, but I think we get the general gist, which is that they're excited, they're ready for this, and which is why there's a huge collection rate for the PVCs in Bauchi. Thank you very much for the reporting and for the update on the phone, Hajara.
Yeah, and we've since been joined by the Executive Director for Alliances for Africa, Ihioma Obibi. Thanks a lot for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
And let me start with something else. You know, we've been talking about campaign financing and what we have on the field as the elections are drawing much closer. I mean, you've monitored the 2011 elections, 2015, you were a monitor in one of those elections. And I'm going to ask what you saw on the field in terms of finances. What happened? Was there open inducement or covert inducement? This is something you've talked a lot about. So share with us this evening.
Apologies, I got caught in the traffic of Lagos, so getting here was slightly problematic. 2011, 2015, when I observed the elections and INEC registered observer, I wasn't really aware or there wasn't a public display of inducement. What I observed in the field was that people were prepared to vote and wait to count. So they would come in, and remember, they've changed the procedure now. We've been told you vote, you come in, clock in, and do everything all at once. But that wasn't the case in the previous elections, where you had to come in, clock in, and then come back to vote. So people hung around. And those that didn't hang around, such as the elderly, the pregnant women, the disabled, came back late, they went home and came back later. There weren't any public display of inducements. You did see the various officers for the various parties hanging around. Now, in the polling units that I observed, what was apparent was that they were some distance away from the polling booths. So they weren't where the individuals went to vote. As you know, it's a secret ballot. That's good, but these are urban areas. My colleagues that were observing in more rural setting reported different observations. I did not experience those because my observations took place in Lagos.
Okay, what did your colleagues report?
At the time, they reported that people were being encouraged to, remember the bag of rice they were given, the bag of Maggi, bag of tomatoes, all those kinds of inducements. The inducements were not necessarily monetary, but they weren't necessarily cash. They were inducements nonetheless, and gentle reminders that it would be to your advantage to pay back by voting in or standing in line. In some places, they stood in line behind particular candidates. But that's, I didn't experience that where I went to observe the polling units that I observed.
Okay, while I put you on pause, Irma Bibi, let me ask you, Mr. Booker. The other question I asked you earlier was about the whole issue of manufacturing and all of that. But now, this year, this election, the official figure for it, I mean, the organization of the election, not how much the parties are spending, is about 189, roughly, billion. That covers INEX costs, the cost of security, payment to personnel, and all of that. Can we afford this every 4 years? I mean, we're not talking, this is not illegal funds. This is not coming from, this is budgeted, this is under public scrutiny, but this was officially approved.
Now remember, the 189 is the INEC budget.
Right.
It's apart from all the spendings of the political parties, et cetera, et cetera. Now, 189 billion is what, $500 million? For an economy of $450, $460 billion. It's absorptive. The economy, I mean, if democracy is expensive, try dictatorship. It's probably going to be a lot more expensive in terms of the lives of human beings that would be affected by a dictator that can get extremely ruthless when people
Let me put you on pause. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and you finish that thought because it's very important. And when people talking about affordability, that's where we're going. But we'll be back after this break.